Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or as we like to say here at Shady Acres Woodshop, howdy. Today I have a piece sent to us from viewer Carl Bunker. He says this is a root section from a red oak tree. So this used to be down in the ground. That's what it looks like. You can see some spalting in there if you look carefully. It looks like Carl has sealed the ends for us. This piece is about 7 inches wide by about 9.5 inches long by about 4.5 inches deep. And what I'm going to do is take this over to my jointer and flatten off the bottom so that I can set it on my drill press table, so that I can cut a hole here for clearance for my chuck jaws so that I can mount it up on a woodworm screw. Because as it is now, it's kind of wobbly and I won't get a good job. So that's what I'm going to do, and I'll bring you back here in just a minute when it's all mounted up on the lathe and we're ready to turn us a red oak bowl from a root section of the tree. How cool is that? I'm really looking forward to it. Stand by. Okay, you can see where I planed it off. Make a flat surface so that I could countersink the top. It is out of balance yet, and that's because of this diagonal cut over here. Once I do the same on this side, we should be good to go. But I'm only able to turn it about 500 RPM right now. And I'm going to get my mask and face shield on, take my 5/8 inch bowl gouge, and we're going to get to turning. Yep, there's some spalting, just like Carl told me. Looking good. My chisel's about as dull as they come, so I'm going to sharpen up. I'll be right back. About 1250. Got this chainsaw cut here I have to deal with, and it's in there about another 3/8 of an inch. I also have to work on the bottom. Maybe I should do that first. Get a base for this and get a tenon on there. So let's work on the bottom for a minute. Well, that's a big enough bottom, but I still have my chainsaw cut, so I'm going to have to work away at this corner, make a little smaller bottom. That's some very hard wood. Yeah, I got to sharpen up again. We're getting there. This is going to be some beautiful wood. Beautiful. I'll be right back. This is what we call a happy accident. While I'm trying to get rid of that, I'm also trying to determine an outside shape. And because I wanted to come in here to get rid of that chainsaw cut, I've actually created kind of a different shape for me. I'm not saying it's extra special or anything. It's just I'm coming up here before I go out, and it kind of creates a nice base on there. Kind of a happy accident. I'm happy about it. I think I'm going to go sharpen up again. It cuts really nice when I'm sharp, but it doesn't, my chisel's not staying sharp for long. This is some hard wood. And while I've stopped for a moment, I'm going to mark out for my tenon, just to give me an idea how far I can go here. Now, I don't think I mentioned, Carl's not a wood turner. He's a power wood carver, and he gave me a link to a piece that was cut out of this same red oak root. His piece is gorgeous, just gorgeous. And he uses power tools to carve out a bowl shape, inside and out. He just does great work. I'll provide that link down in the description if you want to take a look at Carl's work. Pretty fantastic. Okay, I'm going to continue going in here. I've just got a hint of it, so I want to continue in. I still have to get rid of just a tiny bit of that, but I want to enhance this shape that I accidentally found. Okay, the cut's gone. I'm happy with the shape, so we'll go to work on the bottom here. I'm probably gonna get the tailstock out of the way so that I can do a good job here. Well, due to getting rid of that chainsaw cut, wherever it was, maybe it was over here, anyway, I've made my base a little small here, so I can't create a tenon the way I normally would with a gouge. So I'm just gonna take a parting tool and just go straight in here. So when I turn it around, something for my live center to fit against when I remove this tenon. Okay, so what does that mean? Time for sanding. I'm going to start the sanding in reverse with my 2-inch sanding disc, lathe spinning at 350 RPM. So I'm starting at 80 grit. I'll work up through at least 400, and we're going to go with sanding sealer and shellac on this piece. I'll see you back here when it's time for sanding sealer. Well, this is just pretty exciting to me. I don't often get to turn oak, and I love oak. And then to get to turn a section of the root from the oak tree. How cool is that? It's very cool, Phil. I know. I just said that. Now, as most of you know, oak is a very open grain wood, so it's probably going to soak this up pretty well. Although I did get a nice smooth finish from sanding. I did stop at 400 grit. That spalting in there just adds even more wonderfulness. And it's really cool of Carl to send me this piece. He said he thought it would be fun to watch a piece of his wood get turned, because like I said, he's not a wood turner, he's a wood carver, power wood carver, and man does he do nice work. And of course, after power carving, you can imagine there's just a million cuts that need to be sanded, so he spends a lot of his time sanding, but it pays off. So this is the first of probably 2 coats, maybe 3, of sanding sealer. We'll just see how it goes. And then probably 2 coats of shellac, and I'll bring you back when that's all done, and it's time to turn this around and hollow it out. Really looking forward to that too. Okay, see you back here in a bit. The finishing went really well on the outside. I'm very happy with it. 2 coats of sanding sealer and 2 coats of shellac. Now I'm excited for getting at the inside of this. I've got my 5/8 inch bowl gouge all sharpened up. I'm going to get my mask and face shield on. We're going to be turning at 1200 RPM. Sometimes when you've got nice bark, I like to leave, you know, a fair amount of it so you can see that bark. So maybe we'll stop about there at about a 1/2 inch. I'm going to sharpen up again. This is pretty dang hard wood. Well, I said I was going to leave the walls thick, and I am, but feeling it, it's just too thick for a smallish bowl like this. So I think the walls are just too thick. I like the bark, and there's still going to be plenty of bark, but I'm going to take it down a good 1/8 of an inch, maybe more. Yeah, that's much better. Much better. I took it down mostly below the bark, so it's thinner down here than it is out here, but it just feels so much better than it did. And I'm not getting anywhere. I'm going to sharpen up again. I better measure. I don't think I'm there yet, but you know. Yeah, that's about 3/8 of an inch on the bottom. Probably about thin enough by the time I scrape this. Let me get a fresh edge on my round nose scraper and we'll scrape. Yeah, that's better. Time for sanding. I'm going to start the sanding with my Sandoflex just on the bark area here. Still. And I'll do some that way and I'll do some this direction. And I won't do too much. I don't want to change the character of the bark. I just want to clean it up and smooth it out a little bit. After I've done that, then I'll switch to my 2-inch sanding disc. I'll start with 80 grit. Lathe spinning at 350 RPM. And that doesn't look like it's going to present any problems. So it shouldn't take very long. I'll see you back here in about a half an hour when it's time to put some sanding sealer on the inside. Don't go anywhere. Well, the sanding was pretty uneventful, as I thought it might be, and it went really well, and the piece feels real nice. Some real nice grain and spalting in this piece. Thank you so much, Carl, for sending this to me. Oak is such a treat to get to turn. I don't think I have any at all. I don't have any oak at all to turn. I used to love to work with it when I did flat work. This bark isn't real thick, it's not real heavy, so I don't think I'll need a brush. I don't know if you even call it bark when it's from a root, but you probably do. Looks like bark. So I'll put on probably 2 coats of sanding sealer just like I did on the outside, and then 2 coats of shellac. And I'll bring you back here in just a little bit when it's time to turn it around and take that tenon off. See you in a bit. Okay, we're almost there now. I've mounted a block of wood up in my chuck. It's got a non-slip surface on it. I'm just going to slide the bowl over that. Bring up my tailstock. Got the center hole there for reference. I'll just apply a little pressure. Bring up the tool rest. And we'll spin it up a little bit. Make sure that it is centered, and it is. Turn the speed up to about 600 RPM. Take a 3/8 inch standard grind bowl gouge and begin to removing that tenon. And just for fun, I'm going to take my homemade point tool and delineate between the bottom and that raised area Put a little groove in there. Just a little something extra. And I've got a pretty smooth finish. It'll sand up pretty nicely. Actually, I think I'm gonna, typically I'll take it over here to the workbench, and I still will. But because I've got a dome shape here and my sanding disc is flat, I'm going to sand this on the lathe, at least this part right next to where I just turned. I'll get that ready for finish. And I'll bring you back in just a minute and we'll finish removing this tenon. Okay, I'll sand it up, and we are just about through that tenon already. So I'm going to turn the speed down here to about 200 RPM, and I'm going to take a 3/8 inch swept back gouge to finish the tenon removal. And I'll just apply the bevel of the gouge against the bottom of the bowl. I'm going to put my right hand on the gouge and my left hand on the switch. And when that little nub stops turning, we'll know we're through. Like that. And you do want to have your hand on the switch, because bad things can happen if you don't. So now I'll just take this over to the workbench and sand that little area up. Well, there we have it. One oak root bowl in the books. Live edge. Lots of stuff going on in there. Lots of cool grain. There's the bottom all finished up. It's just a real nice piece of wood, that's all. It's just really nice. The bark is so tight. Got the spalting going on in there. It's a beauty. Thank you, Carl Bunker, very much for sending this to us for all to enjoy. If you like this video, thumbs up please. I'd sure appreciate it. If you're a subscriber, thank you very kindly. I truly appreciate that. If you're not a subscriber, you might consider becoming one. I put out regular videos about one a week, and I'd like to keep in touch. Your comments are always welcome, and I respond to all of them. So for now, this is Phil, Shady Acres Woodshop, signing off.